Hello, this is your host, Tuck Mixon, and I'm here with Meg Katzman of UniqueSafaris in Tanzania. Meg is Director of Sales and Marketing for UniqueSafaris, and she's been with them for over 25 years. Welcome, Meg.
Hi, Tuck, and a warm welcome to everybody that's listening today.
Yeah, hi, Meg. Meg, you help people make their safari the trip of a lifetime. What is the most common question you get about planning a safari?
By far, the most common question that I always get is, when is the best time to be in Tanzania? And my answer is always, any time is the best because the animals are always there. But it does help to understand why the Serengeti is unique on the continent of Africa and what happens at different times of the year. One of the things that the Serengeti is famous for is the migration, which actually is the annual movement of wildebeest and zebra in search of food and water all year round. And the herds will travel all the way between the northernmost tip of the Serengeti, all the way down to the short grass plains of the southern Serengeti, with multiple diversions in between. The wildebeest herd is actually about 1.5 million individuals. That's the annual census. However, guides who have been in the bush for 20, 30 years feel that right now there are more wildebeest than they have ever seen before. They estimate closer to 2 million. Of course, that's unofficial. This actually is the second largest movement of mammals in the world. And you might say, well, what on earth could be bigger than that? Bats. Bat migration is the largest movement of mammals, but not very many of us really want to travel to see over 2 million bats migrate. So there's no other location in Africa that hosts a herd of this size. And it's the primary reason why Tanzania is usually listed as the #1 safari destination on the continent of Africa. You're only going to see this volume of animals in the Serengeti. Unique Safaris specializes only in Tanzania, so our reputation depends upon our outstanding knowledge of the movement of the animals in all the parks. And as large as the herds are, it's important to also understand the enormous size of the Serengeti National Park, and that seeing good wildlife depends upon a company's knowledge of all the remote areas of the park and a willingness and a passion to travel there.
Meg, are there any other animals that migrate with the wildebeest?
Great question. There actually are zebra that follow the movement of the wildebeest. The official census is about 250,000 zebra. Again, many of the guides feel that the zebra herds are absolutely enormous, and it could be up to 350,000 zebra. Zebra like to travel with the wildebeest because they take advantage of the wildebeest's extraordinary sense of smell. Wildebeest can smell rain clouds more than 50 miles away, and they will move those distances overnight in search of rain. On the other hand, wildebeest love to travel with zebra because zebra have an extraordinary sense of sight, and they can often see predators long before the wildebeest do. While the wildebeest and the zebra migrate for food and water, it's important to remember that most other wildlife in the Serengeti actually keep their territories or stay in certain habitats, and they are always residents of these different areas. The second thing that the Serengeti is famous for is being able to spot all of the big five rather easily. These 5 animals are of keen interest to be seen by safari goers, and originally the term was coined to represent the 5 biggest animals that hunters most wanted to see. All of the big 5 can be seen in the central Serengeti at all times of the year, and that's one reason why the central Serengeti should always be on one of your itineraries. The most famous predator and the first of the big 5 is the lion, and the Serengeti boasts a population of over 3,000 individual lions, the largest population in any one park in Africa. While the population of lions is considered endangered on the continent of Africa, the number of lions in the Serengeti has actually remained very steady, and that's due to the huge number of hoofed animals that are available to them as prey. The second animal among the big five is the black rhino. Black rhino are highly endangered, and they've been poached for their horns, which most people are aware of. They were actually poached out of the Serengeti for decades, and it wasn't until the mid-1990s when a few individuals began to migrate from the Ngorongoro crater area back into the central Serengeti. There are now approximately 38 black rhino breeding successfully in the central Serengeti, mostly in an area called the Moru Koppies. They are very closely guarded by anti-poaching patrols. The third animal in the big five is the elephant. And everybody loves the elephants. Elephants are found in all areas of the Serengeti, and they do not have a breeding season, so it is always possible to see young calves anytime that you come to the Serengeti. The leopard is another one of the big five, and they are actually considered one of the most successfully adaptable cats in all of Africa. They're solitary, they're elusive, but they're also very difficult to count for an official census. In fact, Tanzania does not allow leopards to be collared or radio collared for any tracking or research because the weight of the collar could impede their ability to hunt. So we really don't know how many leopards there are in the Serengeti. The Cape buffalo is the last of the big five, and it is often seen in large herds, and they don't migrate during the year. Buffalo are a favorite prey for lions, but it usually requires many members of the pride to bring one buffalo down. Large herds of buffalo are often known for chasing lions away from a calf, and they can be unrelenting in chasing them down to get them away from their young. The giraffe is another animal that everybody wants to see, and the giraffe is actually the national animal of Tanzania, and it is highly protected not only from poaching, but hunting. Nobody can get a hunting license for a giraffe in Tanzania. It's possible to see up to 40 individuals, and we call a large collection of giraffe a journey of giraffe. Lions will hunt giraffe when they're really hungry because it's considered a dangerous prey since one kick of those powerful legs could break a lion's jaw, and that would end its ability to survive.
Meg, in addition to the mammals, what else do people love seeing?
Believe it or not, some people actually love to come to the Serengeti for reptiles and snakes. I know that doesn't appeal to everybody, but bird life is abundant in the Serengeti, and this is a famous destination for people who are serious birders, or even just people who might like certain kinds of birds like vultures and raptors. There's over 500 species of birds just in the Serengeti, and 1,113 recorded species in the country of Tanzania. Even mammal lovers are fascinated by the diversity of the colorful raptors like this martial eagle and the behavior of the vultures. Watching a kill from the very start to the finish, including the influx of all the different species of vultures to fully digest and recycle each kill, is one of the most amazing sights for the wildlife enthusiast. So to understand the migration a little bit, this is a fairly standard map that attempts to explain the movement of the herds. The problem is the migration is much more complicated than this. There are always diversions and sections of the herd that break off to either graze in a certain area or seek water in another area, and the movement is just simply never this linear. We've seen herds go all the way north to get near the Mara River, and then if it starts to rain in some areas of the central Serengeti, they'll come all the way back. So it takes experienced guides who have a passion for the bush to make it possible to understand all of these variables and to know where to go to get you to see the most animals. It's really not uncommon for travelers to visit the Serengeti and never see the herd, as hard as that is to imagine. It's also important for visitors to spend time in the central Serengeti since most of these animals remain here all year round. So we always include the central Serengeti.
Meg, what's the most important factor to be able to understand the migration in the Serengeti?
Well, I feel a little bit like a real estate agent, but the most important factor is weather. Weather, weather, weather. The herds move for food and water, and travelers should not be concerned about when it might rain. With very few exceptions, the rains are usually short bursts during the late afternoon and evening. And remember, the rain is what stimulates all activity. As I mentioned before, wildebeest can travel up to 50 miles overnight in search of rain clouds during the green season months of November through May. And the enormous size of the Serengeti National Park, actually the size of the state of Delaware, means that you can often see rain falling at one location and on that same horizon see brilliant sunshine in another area. You can often find lions, especially in the central Serengeti, searching the horizon, waiting for herd animals to move in the territories if it's raining. Rain-soaked predators will wait out the storms because they know that rain is their lifeblood, and it often brings more herd animals, more prey, into their large territories at different times of the year. Cats don't migrate with the herds, so they eagerly await their return to various habitats and always look forward to the rain. One of the other things that I always explain to people is that during the migration, there are three important life events that occur at different times of the year and in different locations. The first of those events is the wildebeest calving, and that takes place usually on the southern Serengeti Plains and during the months of January to early March. The migration to the southern plains is a great example of what biologists call swarm, as in bee swarming, swarm migration, which is basically the concept of safety in numbers. There's at least 750,000 to 800,000 pregnant females that all move to the southern plains to drop their calves and graze on the short grasses, which have the nutrients that are important for good lactation. At the peak of the calving season, there are often 10,000 babies born each day, and that ensures a relatively low mortality rate since predators just can't consume such large numbers. The rut, or the rebreeding of the herd, usually occurs in May and June and again in the central Serengeti. The unusual behavior of forming harems and males challenging each other for breeding rights is only seen at this time of the year. Sometimes this is one of the times that you can see the largest volume of animals because males and females come together to form the harems, and you also have hundreds of thousands of surviving calves who really couldn't care less about what the males and the females are doing. So May is an excellent time to consider, especially for those travelers who might be the most budget conscious, because we are able to get some low rates in the central Serengeti, and there's still abundant wildlife and activity in these easily accessible Serengeti plains. The third life event are the river crossings. And this usually occurs in July, August, September, and October, and sometimes it even stretches into the beginning of November. And again, it depends on the changes in the weather patterns. The Mara River is located in the extreme northwest, and due to this distance, it cannot add cost to a safari itinerary. But witnessing a crossing is dramatic, it's exciting. It's just important to remember that it's never a guarantee. We can always plan an extension to the Mar River if you have chosen one of our set itineraries. We also can do a custom designed itinerary if you would like. It's important for people to understand that now the majority of the herd actually still remains in the Serengeti. Because of the shrinking habitat of the Masai Mara and the more nutritious grassland in the Serengeti, because the Tanzania National Parks actually does control burning of grass, there's now about 70% of the wildebeest herd that stays in the Serengeti at this time of the year.
Meg, this information has been great. What would be the next step for people who are thinking about visiting Tanzania with Unique Safaris?
I know that a presentation like this and an ecosystem that is as complicated as the Serengeti, there's probably many questions that this presentation might stimulate for you. Please don't hesitate to call, to write, and to learn more about what you might see and experience in Tanzania, or to discuss the various itinerary options that we have. We have set itineraries that will be on our website, and we also can get you started on planning for a custom designed itinerary. We really look forward to hearing from you, and I hope this has been helpful.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Tuck. Thank you to all our listeners.